Hey guys, back again with another channel update video. This is going to be a little bit of a longer one. We're going to be talking about what's sort of been happening specifically with regards to conventions, what's going to be happening, sort of an update with what's going on with the move, and lastly, sort of a general channel update, what we can kind of expect to see in the next coming months. So let's roll right into it. First up, conventions. Much like last year, chose not to attend Anime Expo up in LA again. Large part because at the time when tickets went on sale, I was unsure if I was even going to still be in California. So I didn't know what was going to happen with needing secure airfare and all that, and so just decided not to go. Won't lie, part of me is regretful that I didn't go because it's been the one con that arguably over the years I've had most enjoyment from. But at the same time, looking at some of the photos, especially from day one, it's painfully evident they need to bring in some professional people to actually run the convention. It's gotten so disorganized, so poorly run with regards to crowds that, yeah, it which sucks. I mean, you're basically paying to go to a convention that more not likely than not you're not going to be allowed to even get in the building. And that's even with you showing up at crack of dawn. And it's just sad to see what it's become. If they can actually get their act together and either get people who know what they're doing to actually run the show, or the more likely scenario, take the show to someplace like Vegas that has a larger venue that can actually deal more with these types of crowds. I debate if I will choose to go back. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. So that's what sort of happened with regards to Anime Expo. Now, this is the also part of the reason why I didn't go, is because of Comic-Con. This was also the first year with regards to Comic-Con that I chose to stay in downtown in a hotel, because I've always commuted down. One of the benefits of living in the San Diego area, can save on the hotel this year, in part because I wanted to sort of trial run to see how things would play out for potentially next year or beyond. It's really going to depend on whether or not I'm able to get tickets. But use it as just a trial run, see, okay, if I theoretically come in town and stay at a hotel, how am I going to deal with packing stuff? How am I going to deal with bringing food items? All that jazz. And the hotel I actually stayed at is the Bay Club over on Shelter Island. I'll be honest, I was really blown away with just how good the hotel was. Highly, highly recommend them. It's on the bus route for Comic-Con. Had no problems staying there. Would highly recommend them, and will definitely consider them potentially staying again. Only thing I don't know is if they have a airport shuttle. That will probably ultimately affect my decision, just because. But I digress. As far as Comic-Con itself goes, this year was sort of a meh year. A large part of it I will attribute to the ongoing writer and actor strike that basically reduced Hall H and Ballroom 20 to basically a ghost town. They really did not utilize those spaces. which I think is probably a massive mistake on Comic Con's part. Now, you have these big auditoriums. You could have moved some of the panels around and used those spaces and free up some other rooms that could use larger rooms. No, I'm sorry, but they do put some of these panels that really attract bigger audience in some of the tinier rooms, and I personally attribute that to them, not having space. But this year, seen as the two big venues weren't really being used, they could have moved stuff around. So, in that regard, Comic-Con really dropped the ball there. The other thing, and this is a really big issue, was some of the crowd levels, and in particular, line control in the exhibit hall. They really screwed that up this year. I don't know, as I was hearing some stuff about some of the security people not showing up at all, not getting training, a whole lot of different things swirling as far as causes, but more often than not, they were not doing proper line control. You either had lines that they would cap after like a dozen people, or where they could have stretched lines, they didn't. Just overall, it was really poorly managed. Excuse me. In that regard. So those have so far been just the negatives. The plus side is, as far as this year goes, though, I was able to get some of the exclusive lottery stuff. That I was able to do. Thankfully, I really didn't run into any headaches there. There was one item I wanted to get. Unfortunately, it didn't come in at all. Is what it is. But I was overall satisfied there. In fact, I also even got lucky and was able to do one of the Lego minifigure time slots. That I got really lucky on, as that was another nightmare trying to get in, just because they were doing an online thing, and it's clearly they did not expect to get the numbers trying to access the site that they ended up getting. So that became a nightmare in and of itself. And did get into a couple panels. Probably the biggest was the not by attendance size, which is kind of sad, but as far as what I was looking forward to attending was the Babylon 5 the Road Home screening. That was good. It was as far as story wise goes, it definitely felt like a return to form for Babylon 5. On the downside, though, it was kind of disappointing, mainly because just so many of the cast have passed. And there was one scene, not giving spoilers, you can literally hear the words in the original actor's voice. In fact, JMS even mentioned during the panel portion, after he wrote that scene, he had to stop for a bit because it hit that hard for him. And you can feel just from the writing, the words, it was a really well done scene. And it's sad, unfortunately, that the actor for that character has passed. That scene, had it been with the original actor, and this is no fault to who they brought in, people they brought in, the fill roles did a good job, but it's one of those actors that, unfortunately, it's hard to be the guy who comes the fill in for him. But as far as panels go this year, it was better than it has been in the past. I know last year I didn't do any of the panels, as just none of it looked good. So I did do some. The other one, decent one, was the Pokemon panel. As my sister and her husband did it, and glad I went. It was enjoyable. Stuff outside of the con this year was not as good as it's been in the past. Excuse me. I really didn't from what the stuff I did do, none of it was all that great. But that stuff usually tends to be hit and miss. The only outside thing that I thought was pretty cool was the Futurama drone show. That was that was enjoyable, especially with some of the people that had stopped to watch it around me starting to hum the theme to it. So that was an overall enjoyable experience. Comic Con this year as a whole, I would say, was okay. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. There were things definitely they need to do better, but at the same time, there's enough good that happened this year that I'm not gonna, write it off entirely. So that was all the con stuff I wanted to talk about. Now on to the move. So I don't know how many of you saw the little bit of community post I made. We ran into a problem. I'm hoping that this was just a situational problem and not something more serious. But the last two, not this most recent trip, but let me reword that. A few months ago, went back. At the time, I had a bit of a cold, just your bog standard cold. Been a while since I had one. But we went, did some work getting more of the tile up, came home, and was fine for a few days, was starting to get better over the cold, but for whatever reason, the night after my mother got back, and because I had came home early, woke up in the middle of the night and just started hacking up a bunch of just gunk, and it clogged my throat to the point where I couldn't breathe. There's nothing scarier than trying to exhale to get stuff out and not being able to get any air in, and just sort of feeling your lungs sort of pumping away, just squeezing, trying to suck air in, and nothing coming in. What we think happened, and this is in part because we went back about a month later and came back, happened again, but not quite as strong, not as bad, I guess you could say. What we think happened is either A, I have some type of allergy to the mortar that was used, and that dust I got into my lungs and just basically made it so that my lungs started pumping out tons of mucus, and that ultimately is what clogged up my throat. B, the cold caused me to have a bunch of mucus. It mixed with the mortar dust and just really screwed me up, and it's possible that when we went back the second time, my lungs still hadn't fully healed, and that's what caused that. Or C, which is going to be the worst case scenario, there's something else growing around there that I'm allergic to, and we've got a major problem. I'm hoping, since I didn't have any issues previously, it's B or C, A or B. And, depending on when I go again, I'm hoping we won't have this issue again. Because, this is the only time I've ever really definitively felt like, okay, this is it. I'm done. I'm going to basically check out because of this. Feeling as a fish does when it's out of water is without a doubt one of the scariest things in the world. And I'll be honest, it's one of the times that thankful I had somebody home with me. Because, So, at the moment, my mother's actually back at the new house, going to be doing some work. Hopefully try to dust and get some of that stuff up so that we can at least see if that was indeed the cause. Thankfully, we do have sort of a more or less finalized plan for the kitchen. We're right now waiting on a close to final rendering from the cabinet maker, and we're going to be moving forward there. We're still trying to figure out what's going to happen with flooring. That's become arguably the biggest issue right now. Is that's sort of preventing any real movement forward. And obviously, once that happens, then we can start looking at really ramping up the move and getting this thing done. In large part also because we just got a curveball thrown at us. So we now have a definitive gotta be out of here date of about mid-December. This is because they redrew the fire lines here in California. And we're now in a quote extreme danger area. That means we gotta do a bunch of stuff to the house in order to get the insurance to renew. So obviously since we're trying to get out of here, we don't want to do that. So we've got to definitively be out of here by mid-December. That's sort of now the hard deadline. Do I think we're going to be able to meet it? At the moment, I want to say yes. Or at the very least, I'm hoping we are able to meet it. I can't see anything really blocking us from being able to do it. But obviously, we'll see what happens. More than anything, it's just a matter of figuring out what's going on with the flooring. Once we get that done, things, like I said, are going to start moving much more quickly. So, because I don't know what the situation is going to be as far as my ability to do stuff really right after we get this move done. I have no idea what's going to happen in regards to reviews, at least for that first couple of months. If we get out of here, say late October, early November, hopefully by the time I'm going to potentially need videos, we'll have the whole area finally done, and we can just sort of roll right into it without any interruptions. To try and, make sure that doesn't happen, I'm going to go ahead and, I believe I mentioned possibly doing this in the last channel update. I'm, at this point, definitively going to try to get a couple of videos recorded this week, just to have that bit of a buffer. At the moment, I'm looking at probably doing at least February. Possibly, I might even also do March of next year. Get those done. I'm hoping that this is just me being a little extra cautious and, this buffer won't be really needed. But at the same time, there's just too many unknowns that I don't want to leave anything to chance. Unfortunately, because of that, one of the events I was looking forward to, there's actually a model show in October down in Kissimmee that I was looking forward to going to. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to make it this year. Thankfully, there are, looking at some of the IPMS schedules, at least 2 other shows later, or not later in the year, early in 24 that I definitively can make. But right now, we'll see what happens. It's also possible I might just make a special trip back and, plan for 2 of the days to spend down at the show. We'll see. Right now, because of this move and just how much of a just cluster this thing has become. More often than not, I really don't know how or when things are going to proceed. At the moment, we do have some stuff sort of figured out, but at the same time, there's other stuff we don't. Yeah, this is kind of a bit of an issue. But we're making progress, at least in that front. Now, another thing with regards to the channel, you guys may have noticed, I have started putting up a lot more short videos. Been experimenting a little with that just to see what sort of traction that gives. Seems like overall some of them are getting a lot more traction than others. It's one of those things, not really understanding why YouTube selects one video versus another to, throw on other people's screens and just populate for whatever reason. I really don't know. If anyone has some insight into the intricacies of what makes one video more desirable to the YouTube algorithm versus the other, from a purely subject matter wise, since would love to hear comments on that front. As obviously I do want to try to keep growing this channel, try to get it monetized again, just to have that little bit of money coming back in to use to reinvest into this thing. So that is one thing moving forward I am looking to try to get done, and I will keep experimenting with, because it does seem like it's having at least some results. Last few weeks, though, it seems like it's, at least in terms of pure view count, has dropped really low compared to what it was. So I don't know what's going on there. This is where it would be nice if YouTube was a little more straightforward with some of this stuff, so that we as content creators can at least have some idea of, okay, what are the rules of the road? What things are you going to uplift? What things are you going to downlift? And it's like it changes every other hour. So it's a little frustrating in that regards. So that's where we're with that. As I've said before, I do want to get back to doing live streams, but until the move is done, that's not going to happen. Obviously, once we do get the move done, I'll try to do some updates then. But on to another topic. Since this week my mother's out of town, I'll have the house to myself. I can finally do something that I wanted to do for a while, and especially now that I've got lesson plans for getting CFI finally done, I am going to finally finish out the Old Build Airman series. That has been languishing for years. It's like every time I think about finishing it, something else comes up that really draws my attention away. It gets forgot about, and rinse and repeat. But I am planning this week to finish that series out. Where we could go from there, I'm not sure. That's going to be a problem for another day. I am going, already know, probably into September, I might have another chance to potentially at least start, if not, make decent progress. I am going to use these last couple of videos for the Stearman series to severely tweak how I'm editing these videos together, because part of the reason this series has languished so long is just going through all the video and trying to cut it down into a manageable amount. And frankly, that's on me. I recorded everything, and That, unfortunately, it's one of those things that's only going to come with experience and learning how to edit, tailoring it down to a manageable amount. So that's on me. And I'm going to use the last couple of videos with regards to Stearman. I believe at the moment it's going to be 3 videos in total. And yeah, I'm going to use those as the means to just try something different with editing and hopefully get those done this week. I will at the very least get, I think, 2 of them done. The third might not, but I am more than hopeful I'll get the 3 done. As far as the next series goes, we'll see what happens. At the moment, I've got 3 series fully recorded, ready to go. They just need to be edited. When those will get done, I don't know. Again, this ties back into this move. We'll see where we are there. I'm hopeful, as I said, there might be some time in September I'm able to do something. Obviously, at least getting the editing of the video portion, that I can do more or less anytime. It's just the big issue is having the house to myself so that I can actually do the voiceover recording. That's been arguably one of the bigger problems is, I really don't want to have to deal with my mother butting in, causing issues, as that's a headache I don't need. And because I can obviously try and time things when she's gone, is something I can, obviously work around. But with the flying stuff, that's kind of taken precedent. But now that we're starting to wind that down, as we're finally nearing the end, I'm hopeful we'll finally get that done. Now, on the same topic of flying, something I'm debating doing, and this would actually be set up as a second channel, of just doing a channel dedicated just to flying. And this would be, talking about individual maneuvers, flight planning, things of that nature. And having all that sort of on that separate second channel. This is something just right at the moment still just being toyed with in my mind. Had picked up a newer GoPro to potentially use with this. Unfortunately, it came with bad batteries, and downside of Costco, they don't do exchanges. Plus, at the time, it was also the last one, so even if I wanted to exchange it, wouldn't been able to. Reading about the next, because the one I got was a 10, reading about the 12 that's supposed to be coming out middle of next month has my ears perking up. So we'll see what happens there. As I said, this would be, right now, this is just toying in my head territory. And there's obviously, there are a number of factors there that I would have to deal with. And obviously, that's going to take a lot of planning and researching and just, It's a thing I would say is ready for prime time, but is an idea I have for something I want to potentially do. So yeah, that's, I guess, sort of where we're at as far as everything. As I said, we're right now dealing with a hard out of this house date of mid-December. And once everything is done with this move, things as far as this channel is concerned are going to start hopefully picking back up again. I'm hoping to try to get to some of these shows in Florida, in part, to get a sense for the wildlife community there. And yeah, that's hopefully will by the end of this year be in a better place, I guess. So that's sort of what's been going on with this channel. As always, like, subscribe, do all that. I really appreciate you guys. This channel really is, dedicated in part to you guys sticking around. And I guess I'll see you guys next time.